There's an attachment there of being a skater. It was who I was, and now everything that I had worked for from the time that I was 5, 6 years old was gone. The most truest expression of healing is when you can look back and smile, and it doesn't hurt anymore. My 2 favorites, let's put it on top. Oh. Very first ever skating competition dress. My coach, Patty Levoff, had this made for me for my 6th birthday, and it's held up over the last... I am not sure if my competitiveness came from nature or nurture. It went far beyond any of our sports. It was who could run to the car the fastest, who could make the stupidest face at the dinner table. Oh, and there's us again. In 1975, a skating rink opened up about 5 minutes from our hometown, and Dad said, okay, let's all go skating. The minute I put my skates on, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And I don't think my parents had any idea what they were in for. I can only liken it to being a duck in water. It felt so natural. It felt like, oh, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. Being a skater wasn't what I did, it's who I was.
Our identity is grounded in our social relationships, and the more diverse our social relationships and the more diverse our experiences, the more diverse our identities are. And in normal development, having multiple identities and developing multiple identities is very important as you move from adolescence into adulthood. But what's happening with a lot of young people today who participate in sport is that they find themselves in what I call an identity tunnel, where opportunities for those outside experiences and relationships apart from sport are not as available to them, and they end up growing up with what I would call a unidimensional identity, one that's based almost exclusively in sport. And developmentally, that's kind of a dangerous place to be.
My mom and I drove back and forth from the Bay Area to Sacramento every weekend for about 2.5 years. And the reason why we stopped was because my dad died suddenly of a heart attack. I was 13, he was 50. I struggled a little for a couple of months after my dad's death of whether I wanted to return to the ice or not, because it just seemed like it was too hard. But even at the very young age of 13, I understood that that's not what my dad would have wanted, so I eventually went back. Fast forward a few more years, I was 2 weeks from being 18, and I was training a new jump, and well, I started to rotate, but my leg didn't, and so everything in my knee just kind of went. And I had been injured before, knees, hips, ankles, that it wasn't the first time I had been injured, but I knew the pain was so bad that I knew, this is different. I can picture myself in that very bland beige room, and the doctor, who was just as bland, walks in, and I couldn't really understand because he was using a lot of big words, but then he said the words that I'll never forget. He's like, I don't think you should ever skate again. And it seemed utterly surreal. Like I was like, wait, what? Back up, say that again. And without being over dramatic, it was like a death. Everything I had ever wanted, the person who I wanted to be, the things that I wanted to do, the things that I wanted to achieve, in 1 second, gone. Just like my dad.
lost an identity that is central in your life and in some cases an exclusive identity in your life, then yeah, you feel at a loss. And oftentimes you don't have the resources or the connections to cope with that loss. And that creates mental health challenges.
I didn't have good coping skills. That's kind of when my eating disorder started happening. When you go from training 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, and you're eating to sustain that amount of volume, and then you quit, and then you still eat the same, the weight comes on very quickly. What I realize now after a long time and a lot of therapy, I would binge and then I would purge, and it was about control. My life felt totally out of control, but the one thing I could control was what went into my mouth and what came out. So it was about control for me. It's taken me years, maybe even decades, to just really come out of it. And I think the thing that I didn't know at the time is that the healing doesn't come all at once. It comes in little bits, Maybe my first healing came when I graduated college. I mean, this was not something that was ever on my radar. When you mourn a death, you go through stages, and it was kind of like that for me. So it's just been a process and a progressive thing where the healings just come a little bit over time, over the years. I feel like so much of who I am today and so many of the life lessons I learned at 5 o'clock in the morning on that freezing cold ice. I learned about perseverance and persistence and overcoming obstacles and the healing. You're really healed when you can look back and be thankful for your experiences, and I am. I don't think I would be the person that I am today. I don't think I would have the life that I am today if it weren't for skating. And so I look at it and I look back on it with joy and with love. And I still love to skate. It's still my happy place. It doesn't look like it did when I was 17, but I love it.